Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into my official NFL week number 5 picks and predictions, where I predict the final score of every game. And we begin on a Thursday night. The winless Chicago Bears traveling to take on the Washington Commanders. The Commanders sitting at 2-2. That was a pretty impressive performance last week, almost beating the Eagles on the road, the overtime game. The Bears, Justin Fields finally shows out last week. The late interception was terrible, but he started 22 of 23, and his only incompletion was at the end of the first half on a Hail Mary. Folks, I've been saying it, Justin Fields is indeed a franchise quarterback, and you're going to give me him +7 against a Washington team that's kind of streaky. Are we really, going to anoint Sam Howell at this point on a Thursday night game against, a player like Justin Fields who just completely broke out? Even with the whole Chase Claypool not being there, that whole mess, I do like Chicago to keep this game close, and I do have them winning this game outright 27-24. Now, it very easily could be flipped with the Commanders winning 27-24, but guys, we know how the NFL is. It's Thursday night. It's crazy. It's going to be a close game. 7 points for Sam Howell is just too much, especially against a Bears team that really found themselves on offense last week and should have won that game. You had a defensive touchdown by the Broncos. They were up at one point. I think they were up 28-7, crushing Denver. So I will take, in a matchup like this, Justin Fields, Sam Howell. I think Fields is more talented. Not saying, I do think they're going to win, but even if they don't, plus the 7 is just great value the way these teams are trending right now. Moving on to the Sunday games, it's the early 9:30 a.m., the little morning coffee. The Jaguars, listen, this is an interesting matchup. Jacksonville's going to have a big advantage coming into this game because they're already in London. Their body clocks don't need to adjust. That's one of the things people have been talking about, taking on Buffalo. Buffalo coming off that thrashing of Miami. But normally when it comes to the whole body clock thing, the advantage, I've realized that really doesn't matter in a game like this. Buffalo sitting -5.5, and I do think Buffalo wins this game, and we get a very rare, higher scoring London game. It never happens. The London games are always low scoring because we send bad teams. This should be a higher scoring game. I will take Buffalo to continue to roll -5.5. Josh Allen gets off to the slow start. They lose the Monday night game against the Jets, the Aaron Rodgers injury. He's kind of been okay weeks 2, week 3, and then last week, absolutely masterclass, the 4 passing touchdowns. He's going to continue. The Jaguars, it's not a big deal. They can fall to 2-3, and they'll be fine in the AFC South. I still like the Jaguars. I was in on them last week to cover against Atlanta. I'm pulling back a little bit. You got to know when to go in on Jacksonville. This is a week. You take a look last week, their rushing ability was horrible. We know Buffalo, they're one-dimensional themselves, but at least Josh Allen can run. I will take them. Moving on to the 1 o'clock games, this is just a complete mess. It's Tennessee taking on Indianapolis. Both of these teams 2-2. Flip a coin. You've got Indy sitting -1.5. You have ESPN FPI saying Tennessee's better value at 56% chance on the road. With Tennessee, 2 weeks ago, they get crushed by the Browns. Last week, they crushed Cincinnati at home. Now they're facing a rookie quarterback, but Anthony Richardson really has done a good job this year, even though they lost to the Rams. They came back late. They sent that game to overtime. I do feel like, based off of all the factors at play with the rookie quarterback, with both of these teams being 2-2, Tennessee, I guess, is going for it this year. I mean, I never know what Tennessee is doing, but I will say Tennessee wins this game, and they're good value plus the 1.5 when you look at it. Ryan Tannehill, still a solid quarterback, although you never know what you're going to get from him. He could throw 3 interceptions or 3 touchdowns. DeAndre Hopkins, Derrick Henry, maybe a little bit of a rebirthing last week after the narrative around him was that he was completely washed. So I will take the Titans. Just seems like good value against a rookie quarterback. But listen, certainly Anthony Richardson, the mobility, using the legs, he's not your typical rookie. There's a few really good rookies this year, so it's going to be a close game. But Indianapolis wasn't supposed to be that good this year anyway, so this is like a correction game. I do think Tennessee will go to 3-2. Indy will fall to 2-3 on the year. The next 1 o'clock game, it is New Orleans coming out of their dome, going to New England. New England coming into this game 1-3. They need this win badly. They're sitting -1.5, 54% chance to win. And right now with New Orleans, I mean, this team, they were 2-0 in Green Bay. They were up like 20-0 or something. They were about to be 3-0. They completely blow that game, and then they lose to Baker Mayfield and have a horrible offensive output at home. I think the Patriots are really desperate. And listen, the Patriots themselves, they've got a bunch of mediocre receivers. Mac Jones has not been good, but he can be a game manager. We saw him be a game manager against the Jets. They won that game 15-10. This game's going to be very similar. Extremely low scoring. The Saints with Derek Carr right now. I mean, what is Derek Carr doing, ladies and gentlemen? Alvin Kamara had 13 catches for 33 yards. You've got Olave. You've got Michael Thomas. I will say New Orleans probably does need a speed guy. They need a speed receiver, but still, they have good receivers, and Derek Carr is just a complete check-down machine last week in a game that they had a horrible showing in. So I will take, listen, a correction game here. Both of these teams will be at 2-3 at the end of the week. New England is at home. It's still Bill Belichick. He can scheme a good defense to shut down a struggling offense, especially with the loud noise helping him out. The next 1 o'clock game, it is an AFC North division rivalry. Baltimore traveling to Pittsburgh. So Baltimore coming in -4.5, guys. There are heavy trends that say to take Pittsburgh. Lamar Jackson historically does not fare well against Pittsburgh. You also have Pittsburgh performing well at home against divisional opponents. So for those reasons, I am going to go in on Pittsburgh to win this game outright. I was off of them last week. I had Houston plus the 3. Houston easily won. And I know people are going to say, how can you do this? It's crazy. Pittsburgh's been so bad. They're lucky to be 2-2. I agree with you, but this is the NFL. This is a divisional game. Baltimore last week, it was impressive against the Browns, but I really feel like the Browns got knocked with a sucker punch when it came out that Deshaun Watson wasn't going to play. That was surprising. And then they started a rookie like 5th round pick in DTR. It's unfortunate. I'm guessing, Deshaun Watson on a bye week, they wanted to give him 2 weeks of rest, but either way, this is one of those games that where you think, based on the trends, Baltimore 27, Pittsburgh 13, that's just not how the NFL is, unfortunately. I will take the Steelers. You have to be as unpredictable as the league. You've got to call these things before they happen, and I'm putting a stop to it. I see what's going on here. The Steelers historically, even though they've been terrible recently, they've been good at home against division opponents. Baltimore 2 weeks ago was 8-point favorites. They lost to Indianapolis at home, folks. Let's calm down on Baltimore. Both of these teams will be 3-2 at the end of the week, but I do think Baltimore is going to have a better record at the end of the season than Pittsburgh. Moving on, Houston traveling to Atlanta. Both of these teams 2-2. So how about Houston and the year that they have had right now with C.J. Stroud? It's been crazy. Another very winnable game for them at Atlanta. Atlanta starts 2-0. Now they're 2-2. Can I just randomly take a shot in the dark and call this the Kyle Pitts game? Please, for the love of God, let Kyle Pitts do something. Atlanta sitting -1. Bijan Robinson's been really good this year, even with the horrible QB play by Desmond Ridder, and I do think Atlanta is decent value. They still have an okay defense. They're at home. Maybe they incorporate Drake London and Kyle Pitts into this one. It is kind of tough picking against C.J. Stroud, but he is still a rookie. That's really not that talented of an offense, so I'll take the value on Atlanta at this point, -1 at home. They'll improve to 3-2 after 2 straight losses. Houston, who's won 2 straight games, I think they're going to drop this one. Although, listen, you can certainly understand Houston in a game like this with the confidence that C.J. Stroud has possibly winning this game. I just think there's better value on Atlanta being at home. Kind of a correction thing. They've lost 2 in a row. They're going to come home and win one. And they've got, at some point, somebody's got to do something for Drake London and Kyle Pitts. You got to throw the ball a little bit. You got Bijan Robinson. Maybe you get a turnover, and you get a home win. Guys, Atlanta is just such a mess of a team. It's hard to pick against them or for them just because they're just such a weird... Actually, it was easy to pick against them last week against Jacksonville. This game's a little bit tougher. The next 1 o'clock game, it is Carolina sitting at 0-4, taking on Detroit, and oh my goodness, I was surprised. Originally, I liked Carolina. I thought the value plus the 9 was good. I've seen some things that tell me I should go in the opposite direction, and I'm going to believe it because there's a lot of stuff that's come out. Detroit minus the 9, winning this game by 10 points. This is a situation for Detroit, let's remember, kind of a mini bye for them. They had the Thursday night win over the Packers. They got all that time off. They're at home. They're significantly more talented and explosive than Carolina. Carolina at some point, you would think Bryce Young would really start to find himself, get some confidence. I don't think he had any interceptions last week. He was more of a game manager for Carolina. They ended up losing to Minnesota, but right now it does seem like there is value in just fading any Carolina game, even though Detroit is sitting pretty high up, minus the 9. I'm not that crazy of a believer in this Detroit team week to week. I know people will say, well, they just crushed, Green Bay. Of course, they're going to destroy a horrible Carolina team. I don't know. I do like them in this game, though, 31-21. Normally, games at Ford Field, you get higher scoring action, so we will go there. The next 1 o'clock game, it is the Giants traveling to Miami to take on the Dolphins. Watch out for thunderstorms in this game. Watch out for a lightning delay. You do have 3-1 versus 1-3 Miami, the horrible performance last week. It's all right, guys. I predicted it. I knew it was going to happen. This offense is still good. Tyreek Hill last week, only 3 catches. That will not happen again. And this Giants team is a complete mess. Now, they very well might get They probably will get Saquon Barkley back. You have Miami sitting minus 10.5. I don't think it's going to matter. I think Miami, this is a typical Miami offensive performance at home. 38-17 over the Giants, and the Giants are just completely broken at this point. The Daniel Jones contract, I guess it does have an out after 2 years, so they're not completely screwed, but it's a Miami team, guys. We know how this is going to work. They lose on the road, they get crushed, they come back home, they're due for an offensive explosion, and that's what happens. Although, I'm not a big fan of 10.5. I'd like to get Miami at 9.5 or 10, but either way, I think it's going to be an offensive explosion for them. Moving on to the 4 o'clock games, it is Cincinnati traveling to the desert to take on Arizona. What a weird matchup this is. Cincinnati coming in at 1-3. Arizona also 1-3. Yeah, Cincinnati, you cannot pick. It's so hard to predict what's going to happen to Cincinnati. We don't know what the situation is surrounding Joe Burrow. Is he injured? I would expect him to be injured considering how horrible he's played compared to the rest of his career. And if you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan, I'm guessing you're hoping that he's injured, because if he's not injured, that's even a worst case scenario where he showed major regression. So I don't know if 1 week Joe Burrow's magically going to be healed and he's going to throw for 350 yards, but maybe it's this week. I do have Cincinnati. Guys, I don't know. I have no clue what's going on with the Cincinnati Bengals. If Burrow's injured, do they just decide to start resting him? Obviously, this is a very demoralizing situation for the Bengals themselves. This was a window for them before they paid Jamar Chase all the money to compete. They're going to have to pay him. They're going to have to reallocate funds. They're going to try and go for it this year. They need to beat Arizona. Arizona was 3-0 against the spread. They lost and didn't cover against San Francisco. You could argue that based on preseason, this is good value on Cincinnati minus the 3. Arizona, I still really don't buy. But it's just hard to pick for the Bengals or against the Bengals based on the Joe Burrow situation. We don't know if the dude's injured. Is he just playing bad? I'm guessing he's injured, but then it's like, if he's seriously injured, your team is scoring 3 points on offense. Just don't play him. It doesn't make a difference. So I don't know what's going on there. I think Joe Burrow magically gets healed, or maybe his injury clears up because they haven't really been talking about it, and Cincinnati wins this game and gets back on track. You would think, but we'll see. The next 4:05 game, it is Philadelphia traveling to the Rams. So Philadelphia coming into this game 4-0. The Rams at 2-2. Really nice win for them against Indianapolis. I will say this is going to have to depend on Matthew Stafford's health. We don't know the situation there. I'm guessing he's going to be playing, and I'm basing this pick off of, Philadelphia's performance last week. It wasn't that great. I do think this is a potential upset for the Rams at home, at SoFi. You have a team traveling East Coast to West Coast in Philadelphia, coming off that close win against the Commanders. Guys, let's be honest. Let's just call it what it is. Philadelphia is not going 17-0. They're just not, so they're going to lose a game at some point. It's the NFL. They'll lose to the Rams as long as Matt Stafford is healthy enough. I don't know if Cooper Kupp is coming back this week or not. But, Kyron Williams, Puka, that's a solid offense, and they've got a good enough defense, I think, to win a game at home, sitting 4.5-point underdogs, although I'm really against the analytical models on this one. A lot of analytics say to take Philadelphia, and if it comes out Matthew Stafford's not playing, obviously, this pick is void. I'm guessing he's going to be playing, but I am taking the Rams in that one. Moving on to the 425 games, it is the Jets traveling to Denver to take on the Broncos. How about the Broncos last week? They get a win. They've got a decent offense, a horrible defense, and then the Jets, it's just an unfortunate situation. What happened on Sunday night, that holding call on the interception, Mahomes' scramble where the defensive lineman's getting groped. It's just sad to see. Denver's -2. I know there's going to be a big narrative that Zach Wilson turned the corner. He's going to perform well against a bad Denver defense. I don't know if I believe that. I think there's decent value on Denver -2, and I have them covering this spread just barely, 24-21. Remember, they are at home, but Zach Wilson did play decent against Kansas City. I just need to see more of it to really believe it, so I'll take the value in Denver. But then again, I only have them winning by 3. I'm not really going off the rails here on this pick. They are favored by 2. The next 425 game, it is Kansas City traveling to Minnesota. So I'm guessing this is like the marquee 425 game. KC coming in 3-1. They did not cover against the Jets last week. And then you have Minnesota finally getting their first win and covering on the road at Carolina. I do think Kansas City wins this game. I'm guessing it's going to be more high scoring. So I will go in on Kansas City -5. I really don't trust it because Minnesota is a team. They can really play with anyone, guys. They really can. They may only lose this game by a field goal, but I do think Kansas City, this is a game where you're facing a Minnesota team that really has a bad defense. You're in a dome. Mahomes, after, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions on Sunday night. Yeah, he's due for a massive statistical game. I would say 4 touchdowns, possibly 120 yards for Travis Kelce and 2 scores. And KC wins this game in Minneapolis. Moving on to the Sunday night game, it is Dallas traveling to San Francisco. It seems like this matchup happens quite often. I don't know, maybe because we just saw it last year during the playoffs, but Dallas comes in 3-1. San Francisco's 4-0. San Francisco's been crushing everyone. And it seems like the common thought is, of course, San Francisco's going to win this game at home. Guys, I'm actually going the opposite direction because I do think the NFL is unpredictable. I'll go in on Dallas winning this game outright. Both of these teams will be at 4-1. At the end of the week. Dallas is kind of strange. They blow teams out, then they have a bad game. This is a game against Brock Purdy. He's a decent game manager. Christian McCaffrey's been great. But I do think at some point, it seems like San Francisco never loses. Going back to last year. So I like Dallas to win this game. I like them, the value plus the 4. Even if they lose by a field goal, they'll still cover. But guys, there does seem to be something. When is the last time San Francisco lost a home primetime game? I feel like they have a decent amount and they never lose. Maybe that's just, I'm misremembering it. I don't know. It is crazy. And then moving on to the Monday night game, it is Green Bay traveling to Las Vegas. What a spicy matchup this is. So the backstory to this, apparently, this is going to be it's not going to be a Green Bay home game, but it is certainly going to be more of a neutral site game with all the Green Bay fans coming into Vegas, enjoying a vacation and watching their Packers play the Raiders. The Raiders, we have no clue what's going on. I thought Aiden O'Connell was decent. He was kind of a game manager last week. Will they get Jimmy G back? You would think it's just a concussion, but we know how crazy the NFL is with concussions. They're very cautious. Green Bay coming into this game sitting 2-2 after that bad Thursday night loss. So this is a huge off time for them. They go from Thursday night to Monday night, basically a week and a half, almost 2 full weeks being off. But guys, I will take Green Bay to win this one. Whenever a game on primetime is in Vegas, I love the over. It just feels like the vibe. I'll take Green Bay to win this one. 30-27, I guess they would cover the -2, but I really like the over in this game. It's probably going to be a lower over-under, too, because of the situation surrounding the Raiders quarterback. But again, Aiden O'Connell was decent last week. Should be a relatively, surprisingly higher scoring game. But guys, that is going to do it for my official NFL Week number 5 picks and predictions. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.